hello friends, hello friends, hello friends, hello friends. Hi, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Welcome back or welcome to my channel, whichever one it is for you. This might be your first time, might be your second or third, I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate, anyone who watches this video, and I would greatly appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. It really helps me. I appreciate, anyone who just watches the video, though. Anyway, don't feel like you have to do it, but I do appreciate it. It does help me. So, today I'm going to be recording a little whisper ramble, because these are my favorite type of ASMR videos to watch. I don't know what it is, but I love knowing about people's lives. I love knowing about people's lives and just learning about them, and I think it's really interesting for whatever reason. I don't know, I've never really, these have always been the kind of videos that I've loved to watch. So, yeah, let's just get started. So I did have a topic in mind, but it might waver a bit, waver a bit as it goes. But I wanted to talk about my mental health, which is a bit more complicated than other people's, I guess I will just put it. I am, everybody out there has experienced depression or anxiety or something in their lives, but I, ever since I was really little, like 10, 11, 12, I don't remember exactly when it started because I have memory issues from trauma and my ADHD, but ever since I was really little, I have been experiencing really severe mental illness. It started out with schizophrenia symptoms, where I wasn't diagnosed with schizophrenia until much later in life, but actually it was only about 5 months ago. 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 months ago, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. It started out that I was just diagnosed with depression when I went to go see a psychiatrist when I was about 11 or 12. I don't remember quite how old I was. I was pretty young, though. And they just diagnosed me with depression, even though I was telling them I was hearing voices. I was paranoid. I was extremely paranoid. I couldn't fall asleep at night because I thought somebody was going to come into my room and kill me. It was that kind of stuff. It was serious, very serious stuff. But I was just diagnosed with depression. They were like, you have depression, and then they put me on antidepressants, and those antidepressants did not help at all because I also had childhood bipolar disorder. This is kind of me retroactively diagnosing myself, but I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well. I just wasn't diagnosed at the time, but I have had it since I was a kid, probably that young. But the antidepressants didn't help, and I stayed in therapy and treatment till I was about 15. I want to say 15. Yeah, 15. But it didn't get better. In fact, it was honestly getting worse, and I kind of just made the decision to stop going to therapy and to stop seeing my psychiatrist. My parents just let me. They really shouldn't have let me, but they did, because my relationship with my parents is a bit strained. My mother has never liked me. She never really, we never got along. In fact, that's for another day though. But anyway, they were not really understanding of my mental illness until really recently, and even now they're still not really that understanding of it. But they let me stop my treatment couldn't stop my medications, which I took like 7 or 8 or 9 different antidepressants when I was a teenager, and they never did anything for me. And it was just like, thinking back on it now that I know more about psychiatry, because I was a psychology student for a while before I dropped out of school, and also just what I know because of research. There are four different kinds of antidepressants. There's MAOIs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and antipsychotics, atypical antipsychotics, which I'm surprised they never tried anything other than an SSRI on me, which maybe if they did, it would have helped. Like, maybe if I got on antipsychotic at the time, it would have helped, but they didn't, and we'll never know now. Now I'm on an antipsychotic, and it has antidepressant qualities, like mood stabling and antidepressant qualities, but it first foremost is an antipsychotic for my schizophrenia. Before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, it's because of my bipolar disorder. Like, before I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, I was diagnosed as bipolar with psychotic symptoms, and now I'm diagnosed as schizoaffective disorder. But so yeah, I stopped treatment when I was about 15, and I around when I was 18, I was about 18 and a half, I went and saw a psychiatrist again, because I was having just these complete crazy mood instability episodes along with my psychotic symptoms. And I was like, I can't take it anymore. And even now, I don't have a full diagnosis for it. But it has been suggested to me by other professionals that I've seen, and I also am being prescribed treatment for it. They just won't diagnose me, and it's BPD, borderline personality disorder, and I suspect that I have BPD as well as bipolar, which is like a very crazy combination. If you know anything about psychology, it ruins my life, honestly. And that's the thing that I want people to take away from this the most, is that, you know, it's hard being this mentally ill, but ultimately, I'm not a danger to anyone. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to go out and like rob a bank. I'm not going to do any of that crazy stuff. I'm just a normal person that struggles more than the average person does day to day, honestly. But, so I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. When I first saw that psychiatrist. Later, when I saw a different psychiatrist, he diagnosed me with bipolar 1, bipolar type 1. And the thing you have to know about the difference between type 2 and type 1 bipolar disorder is that it's really just a difference in severity of the actual disorder. Bipolar 2 is characterized by episodes of depression, which it happens in both 1 and 2, depression and hypomania, where hypomania is where you have an elevated mood, you may have a lack of sleep, you may be more irritable, you may have racing thoughts. But bipolar 1 has mania, full-blown mania, where you probably will have more issues with sleeping. You might have delusions that come with it, where you kind of believe, well, I think they're called like aggrandizing delusions. I don't remember the exact word for it, but it's basically like you believe you're the queen, you believe that you're the president, or any number of things. Or here's an example. One time I almost tried to jump off a freeway overpass because I thought I could fly. So that's a pretty classic sort of mania delusion, like delusion of grandeur. That's the word I was looking for. I finally just remembered it. But yeah, that's the main difference between the two. And then I was diagnosed with well, unofficially, because it's not really a diagnosis you can get. My diagnosis was kind of changed to bipolar 1 with psychotic features. And then I was hospitalized in March, and my diagnosis was changed to schizoaffective disorder, which basically schizoaffective disorder is where you have schizophrenia and a mood disorder, whether it's depression or bipolar disorder, and they co-occur, but also they happen separate of each other is the thing. So you can have, basically, to get a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, you kind of have to have a schizophrenic episode, a psychotic episode, happen independent of a mood episode or a manic or a depressive episode. So, I'm still working on diagnosis with my doctor and my psychiatrist because they haven't been observing me long enough to know if that is really the true diagnosis, but we're working on it. But what I wanted to talk about, that was just kind of an explanation for my history, and I won't go into everything I'm diagnosed with because it's like a crazy list, but I also have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which really plays into all of my other problems. No, I am not officially diagnosed with CPTSD. I'm officially diagnosed with PTSD because CPTSD is not in it's not in the diagnostic, the DSM, that's what it's called. It's not in the DSM, so it's not an official diagnosis. It is a type of PTSD, basically, where you have some extra symptoms that come along with it from repeated long trauma, and I won't go into what caused it, but it's important to know that I also have CPTSD. So what I wanted to actually talk about for a bit was sorry, I have this thing where I can't talk about serious stuff without laughing. Is that a problem anybody else has? I don't know, it makes me feel kind of crazy sometimes because somebody will be talking about someone dying and I'll just start laughing, and it's awful, it's terrible, but I can't explain oh, this is normal for me without looking like a friggin' psycho. But I guess I kind of am, but whatever. Whatever. So, most recently, I was having this episode where I'm not off of my medication, but I was taking a half dose of it because I wasn't taking my morning meds, really. And so, my morning meds is half of my mood stabilizer. And so, when I don't take that, I don't do really well. So, I had close to a full-blown manic episode where I didn't sleep for 4 or 5 days, and several days leading up to it, I couldn't sleep either. But I got just a little tiny bit of sleep, just a couple of hours. But I was not sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was obsessing over just whatever was on my mind at the moment. Whatever was on my mind at the moment seemed like the most important thing in the world. And so I decided I wanted to start smoking cigarettes again, which I haven't done in years. And so I started smoking cigarettes just randomly while I was in my manic episode, because I was just out of my mind. I was doing stuff I wouldn't normally do. I honestly considered hospitalizing myself again, but I knew that it was gonna pass. I knew it was gonna go away, and I also knew that I wasn't working at the moment because it's summertime. I'm a school district worker, and so I'm not working at the moment. But so I didn't have to worry about, what I was possibly going to do around the children. So I was I'll just write it out at home. I wasn't hurting myself. I wasn't, thinking about, like ending my life or whatever, so I was like, I'll be okay. You know, I don't need to go to the hospital. I was just there 5 months ago. I don't need to go back. But you know, I wasn't really experiencing psychotic symptoms at all. It was just the manic symptoms. But the manic symptoms are still terrible. They're still really hard to deal with. If anybody out there is, you know, bipolar or has ever experienced a manic episode, I don't know if you can experience mania without being bipolar. I'm not really sure. But you know, if anybody out there has experienced it, you know, it's really hard. It's hard to deal with. Just life in general. And before that, I was having the hardest time with my medication. I am so thankful every day, every single day, that I am not physically disabled, or I don't have any chronic illness or anything like that. I'm actually, you know, perfectly healthy, other than the fact that I'm overweight. Like, I don't know if you can tell from the chest up or the shoulders up, but you can probably tell from my face. But, you know, I'm fat. I'm a big person. I'm overweight. But other than that, I don't have any health problems. I don't have any, you know, thyroid, liver, kidney, anything really. Nothing's the problem. I don't even have high blood pressure. Like, that's not even an issue that I have. It's a little bit high, but it's not concerning. So most of my problems nowadays are coming from my medication. Like, I take lithium, which, if you know anything about lithium, you know it's hard on your body. It is really hard on your body. When I was first taking it, I was like throwing up every single day. I had the worst headaches. My hands were so shaky, I could barely hold anything. But now I was just having the worst headaches, and I was like throwing up every day, so I couldn't keep my pills down. So that wasn't helping with the whole, you know, I have an episode coming on thing. But you know, it's not much I can do. I just have to take my meds and hope for the best. But thankfully that passed. And while I did have a manic episode, I was okay ultimately. I currently live with my family, so they kind of watch out for me when I have these episodes. Because, like, they know, you know, when it gets bad and, like, when they should put me in the hospital. But thankfully it did not get to that point. I thank God, honestly. I don't even believe in God, but it's hard to know. It's hard to know when exactly the right time to go to the hospital is. And if you guys want like a Tales from the Psych Ward sort of video, I've got all sorts of crazy, well, not crazy, but just weird stories from being in inpatient treatment. I've been hospitalized twice, maybe more. In the future, probably, honestly. You know, if you're a person who has schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, or, you know, anything more severe than just depression, you're probably going to be hospitalized if it's a severe case. Like, that's just how it is, being mentally ill. It's tough. But yeah, if you guys want to hear about like experiences I've had in the psych ward and like my last stay at one, I would be willing to do a ramble on that. A ramble on that if you want to hear about it. I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. It's an experience that not everyone is going to have in their life, and I think it's an experience that most people, whether they intentionally do it or not, have stigmatized, whether it be from movies or video games or comics or just TV or, you know, just whatever perception you have in your own head of what a psych ward is like. I assure you it is not like that. Yeah. So that's about all I have to say on that subject. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, so I really I'm trying to work full time because I'm trying to move out of my family's house because I hate living with my family. It's complicated. It has a lot to do with my actual parents, but we won't talk about that. But, yeah, so I am trying to get a full-time position at my job so I can move out. Currently, I am a substitute, so it's not full pay and it's not full hours. So I applied for what I am sure, absolutely 100% sure, 120,000% sure was a general ed position, because I work as a paraeducator. For those who don't know, and a paraeducator is basically you are like a teacher's aide, but you have some extra duties, like you watch after kids at lunch, recess, beginning and end of the day, so like going to the buses, or sometimes you're a crossing guard if you had those in your school when you were a kid, for walkers. But basically, that's my job. I used to be in school for elementary ed, like I wanted to be a teacher, but I dropped out. Well, before I swapped programs and then I dropped out. But college isn't for me, honestly. I don't like it. If you can deal with it, that's great, but I am neurodivergent and brain weird, and there's all sorts of things going on with my brain that makes college hard for me. And also student debt is a real problem, that if I get to the point where I get disabled, like I am on disability and I can't work, how am I going to pay back my student debt? I don't know. So I'm just foregoing it and working a regular job. My brother keeps coughing. It's so irritating because I know it's going to show up in my mic. If you can't hear it, then whatever. But so student debt is a real problem as well. But so I'm trying to get a full-time position, and it's easier to get a full-time position in the middle of the year because fewer people are applying, and for whatever reason it's just easier. But I applied last year for a full-time position and I got an interview, and I applied for, basically they have like this roster sort of job, roster job, where you apply and then they interview you, and if you pass, they place you based off of your preferences and what school they think you would be best at. And so I applied for that and I got an interview, and they told me I didn't have enough experience, which I guess because of COVID I didn't have enough experience because I didn't get to work the full year, and that was my first year of doing the job. But I applied again this year, and I know for sure that I applied for the general ed position because I'm not really interested in special ed. I've done special ed and it's not my thing. It takes a completely different kind of person to do special ed than me. I can't do it. It's tough. But so I know I applied for the gen ed position, and I don't know why, but when I go to get the interview and they haven't sent me the Zoom link because it's a Zoom interview, and then it takes up until like 1 minute before the interview, they finally get me the Zoom link, and it's apparently the hiring manager had my email wrong. Whatever. It's not a complicated email, but whatever. So I go to the interview, and then she can't hear me. Like, my mic isn't working. So I'm like, oh my god. So she says, I'll call you on the phone. And I'm like, cool, great, awesome. So she calls me, and she's like, and I don't even remember exactly what she says, but she points out that this is for a special ed interview, and I was like, hold up, wait, what? That is not what I applied for. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I applied for the gen ed. I'm not interested in special ed. And she was like, oh, do you still want to go through with the interview? And I'm like, no. And so I probably should have just done it, but I was already nervous enough for the interview, honestly. So she's like, I'll email name redacted, who is the hiring manager. And I'm like, cool, thanks. And she's like, I'll email her and see if you can get an interview. And so about a day goes by, and I email redacted lady. I email her, and she's like, sorry, because of the union, I can't just give you an interview because even if you didn't apply. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. But she's like, keep applying. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So basically, I don't have a job. Well, I do have a job. It's just not the one that I want. So I'm going to wait about 2-3 months till October, November, December, and I'm going to try and apply for a full-time job, hopefully full-time, in my district. That's not a permanent residence. I don't have to swap around. I absolutely despise the thing about subbing where you have to go to new places and different schools. I hate that. But basically, in my school district, the way it works is, unless if you have like several years of experience elsewhere, you have to sub first and then you get a full-time job. It's really annoying, but it is what it is. I really want to move out. My friend, who I'm hoping to live with, is currently going to apply for a better job, one that pays more, so he can live. So we can, well, hopefully once he does, we can move out and live together, and then it'll be a lot easier, because I'm very self-conscious around my parents for whatever reason. Well, I know why. I'm very self-conscious about everything I do because of the aforementioned CPTSD, but I'm very self-conscious about anything I do, so I would probably never tell them that I'm making ASMR. Like, unless if it became my actual job, I probably would never, ever tell them that I'm making ASMR. Like, I know they wouldn't judge me, or they wouldn't really judge me, but I am so scared of judgment that it freaks me out so bad that I just refuse to do it. So that's a fun fact about me. I am so traumatized by things that have happened in the past that I cannot deal with even the thought of someone judging me. It's really hard on me, and it's always been like that. I've always been like that, and I'm working on it. But the good thing is my job has health insurance, so I can see a therapist, because America, first world problems, is there's no universal health care, and you cannot see a therapist or a psychiatrist realistically, really, if you don't have health insurance. It's just not great. It's 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 not great. But yeah, that's about all I had, honestly. I filmed this video before, but I didn't like the way it turned out because it was like too clinical. It was just me explaining my disorders, like whatever. I felt like that wasn't, from the heart enough. Like, I wanted to talk about my actual experience with living with it, and I'll probably talk about it in the future because it's a big part of my life. It's probably the biggest part of my life. Not the most important, but the most prevalent thing in my life is living with these disorders, and it's hard. It's really hard if you've and I cannot stand it when people who are either non-mentally ill and non-neurotypical or have just experienced depression and anxiety try to tell me that they get it. Like, you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't. And you can try, unless if maybe you've had a family member who've experienced these things or a friend, then I kind of get that. But also, it's not your lived experience. Like, you don't know what it's like to live my life. And I guess that's true for everyone, but I just don't like it when people try to relate to me when they don't understand. Like, I can't explain why. It just really bothers me. I don't know. I can't really explain it. It's just a pet peeve that I have. But, so yeah, that's about all I had. Don't forget that no matter what today brings, tomorrow will be better, or it won't, and you'll deal with it. Honestly, that's about all you can really hope for. as hard and unforgiving. And honestly, it makes me want to give up every single day. But the fact that you've lived another day shows that you are strong, whether you think it or not, you know. And I think that that's something that we should take pride in. You know, you're living your day to day. I'm living my day to day. We're doing the best that we can. And I think that we should all be grateful for that. And I hope that wherever you are, you're having a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Bye.